the unsung hero of 1984, apparently, and the person who's had the most influence on your life, according to the polls in the Janice Long show.
Oh,
Morrissey.
Very, very wise polls, I think. Very wise polls.
Actually, we desperately tried to get hold of you that night.
Yes.
I didn't know that you'd won because I wanted to keep it a secret even to me. I wanted to be shocked and surprised. But nobody could find you. You were faffing around in Manchester
I
or
was,
something.
yes. I think I was in bed at the time. I'm not sure. But no, it was very nice, very touching too. It's very nice to know that, you know, somebody cares and, you know, etc.
Do I believe you?
Yes, you do, Janice. You do believe me.
Because you seem to win every sort of poll in sight at the moment, don't you?
Well, apart from, you know, smash hits and #1, etc., yes, we do quite well. We do quite well.
Are they important, do you think? Do you think anybody actually takes notice of them?
They're important when you win them, but when you don't, you don't really care that much. You know, it's a very selfish way of looking at things. But ultimately, they're important because when you win something, you feel quite good. And so, yes, I suppose they are, really. But obviously, in another sense, they're not. So, yes, no, yes, no.
Up towards the end of last year, you were based in London, weren't you, very much? And
yes.
actually sort of lived here.
Uh-huh.
Are you now living in Manchester again?
Yes, I am. I don't know whether it's been a very successful move. I find that I do miss London, which is quite surprising. I was only living in London for a year, but yes, I do miss it.
What sort of things do you miss about it?
Very strange things, like actually seeing people. Because where I live, which isn't exactly in Manchester, but it's near Manchester, just on the outskirts, there's very, very few people. And that's very, very dull for me now. So it's just really seeing people and being in the, you know, the mill and the throng. And
what do you mean about seeing people, though? Them coming round to see you or you going out? Because I remember having conversations with you where you said that you go out shopping and you sort of be mobbed, and you weren't really into that much.
No, but I don't really specifically mean, you know, seeing friends and people clambering into the house or whatever. I mean just really actually being in a place where there are lots of people, like, you know, a capital city. So, you know, it's just that fundamental.
Presumably, though, you haven't had much time to see anybody if you've been working on the album.
No, not really. No, not really. So, which is a quite nice way to be, really.
How long did it take to record in the end?
Ultimately, I think we spent about a month on it. It was very, very quick. We just went in and we did it, and it happened automatically. So it was a great success for us in that way.
You recorded it in Amazon Studios in Liverpool. Was that
yes.
so that you could be closer to Manchester?
Well, we really wanted to get some kind of a northern influence, because all the previous recordings we'd done had been in London, and we just felt that really we wanted to go up north somewhere. And we just suddenly, Liverpool just loomed on the horizon, and we chose that. And I think it really worked to good effect, because it did have a particular influence upon us. I mean, it sounds silly, you know, that you can say, you know, north or south, where's the best to record? It sounds like a silly debate, but it does have a grain of logic somewhere.
Actually, it's funny that lots and lots of bands are going up to record in Amazon now for some reason.
Yes, I hope they enjoy it.
You sound as though you didn't.
Oh, yes. No, it was very nice, very nice.
So, do you get much time to listen to music these days? And read your books?
I force time to exist, but otherwise it isn't there.
What's existing to you?
What is existing? What do you mean? How do I exist?
You said you force time to exist, so what's existing? Is that reading and listening to music, or is it other things?
It's all things. It's reading and listening to music, and doing other things like scribbling and you know, painting. No, not painting. Just generally, you know, self-indulgent nonsense, really. That's how I like to spend time.
But surely it's important to be self-indulgent when you're doing something like music.
I think you have to be. I think you have to be, because if you look at if you have a skill and you look at it democratically, that's no good. You have to be quite selfish about what you want to do, and sometimes you have to, you know, stand on people's toes and do all those things that we like to think aren't really necessary in life, but they are. Do
you ever get frustrated because you can't do the things that you want to do?
Yes, I do. I certainly do. Yes, every night.
Oh, right. This is the Ramones and Blitzkrieg, Bob. I shall say no more. Why have you chosen this piece of music?
Oh, this kept me alive throughout 1976. It was just the injection that I needed, if you pardon the imagery.
And Blitzkrieg Bop. I have sworn that I will challenge you about this, so I better hand.
Yes, I know what's coming. I know what's coming.
Thing that was in the Sunday papers where you thought it was right that people injected Mars bars in order to get their point across about animal cruelty. Were you? I mean, do you still believe that? Is that true?
I half believe it. It came from an interview that I didn't really enjoy with a journalist who didn't really like me that much and wanted to patronise me and play me up, as it were. And when that happens to me, when I'm confronted by a journalist who I know doesn't really care about me, I tend really not to care that much about the replies, which is wrong. But now I'm sorry, that's just the way I am. But,
what are your feelings then? Because I've had letters in since saying, "Oh, I'm the Wally and that I'm wrong."
Well,
and
you are, Janice, because it's like, because I'm a vegetarian and because I really oppose people eating meat, that I have to explain that. Yet people who eat meat don't ever have to explain why they do it. It's like, if you ask somebody who eats meat, why do you do it? They look as though at you as if you're unholy or something.
No, but I'm on your side when it comes to animal cruelty.
Yeah.
But I just think it's wrong to do something that whether they did it or not, nobody knows.
Right.
But if a kid eats that Mars bar and suffers, that one mistake or that one thing that happens ruins the cause, I think.
Perhaps it does, but I think the whole thing behind it, I think the whole idea behind it, I could be wrong, was simply to pinpoint how serious they were. Animal rights groups are never taken seriously, but in order to be taken seriously, they have to do something that's absolutely violent. I mean, it's the same with other groups like CND. You have to do something that's absolutely violent, otherwise people just snigger at you. I mean, people who follow CND or any movement, they can get together in the millions and they're just completely ignored if they do peaceful demonstrations. I mean, look what happened recently with Michael Heseltine getting rid of all the people at CND. Yeah. I mean, to me, that's violence. So it always seems that in order to get a political point across, you have to do something violent, which obviously is much to be regretted. And here we are with this Mars bars affair.
The sad thing is that when things like that happen, so many people start calling the people who are doing it lunatics, and they do lose a lot of sympathy from people who might not agree, but sort of, you know.
No, I think that if you really have a grain of intellect, you will understand the whole idea behind these causes. But and if you attack them because of reasons like this, well, you're not really interested anyway.
Are you saying that I'm not interested?
Yes.
But I am, but I just don't agree with combating violence with violence.
I know, but, well, here we are discussing this. I mean, the point I must make about this whole debate is that here we are discussing what, in essence, really isn't the whole point. I mean, the whole point of, the Mars bars, etc., blah, 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 is animal slaughter, yet we're not discussing it. We're talking about something that's totally, off the rails and like a side issue completely.
But that's because you raised it in a paper.
Yes, I know, but next question.
Why do you like Shirley Bassey?
Well, why indeed? The list is endless. This particular record that we're about to hear now, I suppose I can wiggle out of this by saying it had a magnificent production, very flamboyant, very dramatic, full of theatre. All the great records are full of theatre.
Shirley Bassey. Oh, we're having discussions here. Shirley Bassey from an album, Diamonds Are Forever, and Diamonds Are Forever. You said that it was good theatre, which should include conflict, contrast and climax, I think.
I never said that.
You said it was a piece of good theatre.
Oh, yes, I did, yes.
Don't argue with me. Do you think all songs should be sort of theatrical or include good, be like good theatre?
Yes, I mean, in a way, yes. I mean, theatre could sound wrong because, it's like actually acting. Yeah. But more importantly, I think records should sound as though they really mean it, as though people really want to do it and they have to do it, and, if they don't make this record, they're going to wither away. I hate records that sound like, formula and contrived and controlled and programmed, etc. And sadly, there's not really many records around with, heart and gusto, etc., and all the,
The other thing about Shirley Bassey is that she's very much into the performance side of things. I mean, she does give, whether you like her or not.
Yes, yes.
I mean, she gives her all. Do you think that's important?
No, I suppose it is, but who can get away with it? I wonder. I mean, she obviously is somewhat of a child of the 40s and 50s, and, the grand dames of the 50s, that's where she comes from. But now, I don't think people like, Howard Jones would get away with it. Much, really.
What do you think of Howard Jones?
I think he I think... What do I think?
Be careful, because you're on round table with him on Friday.
Yes, yes. Howard Jones fulfills a function. Howard Jones, I think, fulfills a very a necessary function. It's not for me. I wouldn't like to fulfill it. I think he fulfills it very, very well, and lots of people like him for it. So,
when you're listening to music at home, when
Yes.
you get time to exist, what do you look for in music, if you look for anything?
I think I really look for sincerity, you know. I really look for sincerity, determination, things like that. And I don't find it very often. I find that I'm really glued to the same old record collection that I've had for decades now. I can't really make much advancement. There are modern people that I like. I like Marc Almond. I think he's got a great sense of commitment.
Yeah.
I saw him live last week, and I hadn't seen him before, and I was really awestruck. He put everything into it, and it was really powerful. I like Pete Burns. I think he puts a great deal into it. Why am I laughing? He certainly puts a great deal into it. And there's other people that I like, yes.
Are you sincere about what you do?
To a fault, I think. I mean, I think I can't become too serious about certain things, and it's wrong, because ultimately I seem to be the only person that gets upset about many, many things, and nobody else really cares, you know. They all clock off at 5 o'clock and go home, but I don't. But I find now that when people criticise me, it is simply because I have this massive dedication, and for some reason it unnerves people. Mainly, I think, because it's not really very common to find massive dedication.
Because you are sincere about things, and because you make your feelings known,
Yes.
do you, or are you aware of the fact that people are waiting for the next statement from Morrissey?
Yes, I do find that, which is quite daunting, because sometimes I want to say trivial things. I don't always want to make very, very strong, you know, earth-shattering or whatever statements. So yes, I mean, you do have to be on your toes constantly, and that can be quite boring, frankly. But ultimately, I suppose, I'm glad about it, because people are listening. I mean, I find that a lot of the time, like we mentioned before, I'm actually quoted in the daily newspapers, which I think is quite rare, because most people don't really care what pop figures say. You know, popular music is this very low art, and it doesn't really matter. But it does seem like I do get the impression that the press do watch me.
But why have they latched onto you?
I think, without wishing to sound, you know, self-applauding, I think it's because it's so very, very rare to find people in pop music with anything to say, with intelligence, etc., and intellect. And I'm not saying that I'm a professor or I'm magnificently, earth-shatteringly intelligent. I'm certainly not. But just because of the sphere that I work in, it's deemed to be quite dangerous. Dangerous, I think, because we have an audience, and it's very large, and who knows what could develop from that.
Ludus is your next track.
Yes.
Mother's Out. And it's been driving me mad, this Ludus thing. Because,
has it? Yes.
Yeah, well, I don't know why I know them, but I do.
Well...
Unless it's a book of
I don't know why you know
something,
them.
I don't know.
Well, how do you know them? I don't know how you know them.
And I don't think I do, but...
Well, they were very cultish in the late 1970s. Obviously, they didn't get half the degree of attention they should have got. I think they influenced a great deal of Manchester groups. I always thought they were magnificent. Ultimately, they're the only group that I ever really cared about. I thought they were brilliant. They still exist now, but they're finding it very hard. But I think this was their finest moment.
OK, this is Ludus and Mother's Hour.
It is the late
'tis so late, but that's nothing new. And so I wait, but then so new. Nothing is quite what it seems. The air is small, but still we breathe. Very interesting, Morrissey.
What, me or that? Yes.
Oh, you are as well.
Oh, thanks, Janice.
Ludus and Mother's Hour. Does anybody know the real Morrissey, or is this the real Morrissey?
No.
I mean, do you walk around the house sort of saying, yes, let's inject Mars bars and things?
Oh, yes, I do. Yeah, not that, but other things, yes. I sit down and plot everything out very carefully, quite scientifically, yes. I do.
But, you know, when you really want to talk to somebody and all of these people have gone home at 5 o'clock and like you're still carrying on thinking about things, who do you turn to?
I don't turn to anybody. I mean, one just looks to oneself and one, you know, has perfect conversations, etc.
But do you ever feel the need to talk to somebody else?
Yes, I do. I do feel, sometimes I do feel the need for some emotional support, but it doesn't really matter. I feel quite resilient, so it doesn't matter.
Do you know who your friends are?
Yes, I do. Do you want me to listen?
No, but I'm thinking it must be very difficult in your situation.
It's incredibly difficult, but with deep concentration and application, you do ultimately realise who your friends are.
What she said.
Yes.
You didn't pick this, by the way. He's not got a great big ego trip sitting here picking his own.
No, but I'm glad you picked this, because this is my personal favourite.
Oh, mine's the Headmaster one.
Oh.
Smiths Go Heavy Metal from the album Meet His Murder, and what she said, stop pulling tongues at me. Getting back to the sort of people looking for spokesmen in the music business, I mean, that's something which is relatively new, because at one time music was pure escapism, wasn't associated with politics or thoughts. And it seems quite common now that in music papers people are asked their political beliefs and whether they would do support gigs for the miners and what have you. Do you think that's right?
What, they're asked to do
Yes,
things? Yes, I do think it's right, because they have so much power. I mean, modern groups do have a great deal of power, and because things are so serious and critical now in the world that we have to use everything that we have.
But only if the audience is right, surely, because if you get somebody who's appealing to a certain type of person who hasn't really matured enough, perhaps, to have thoughts of their own, can't they persuade into doing something that they don't really believe in?
No, I don't think so. I don't think people are really persuaded to do things that they don't believe in. I think people always really do things ultimately because they want to, whatever it is in life. So I think it's good, because even if people aren't politically open or politically awakened, if you like, at least it does provoke them to start thinking about things that they might reject, but things that they might embrace, so it's very good.
Have you always been concerned about things?
Yes, I have, always, ever since I was, you know, 28. Ever since I was a child.
A little boy in short trousers.
Well, I never wore short trousers.
Didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Oh, good.
Yes,
I think little boys in short trousers look nice.
Oh.
The halcyon days of music were when for you?
I think they were splattered over... there were periods, I think. I like a lot of things from the 60s. I like things from the mid-70s. People like the Ramones and Patti Smith and New York Dolls. That had a great deal of appeal for me. But I find now that if I really have to be tied and nailed to one era, if you like, it would be the mid to late 1960s.
Now, this track was when? This would be early 70s, Children of the Revolution?
Yes, it would, yes, Children of the Revolution.
T-Rex. Was Marc Bolan one of your idols?
T-Rex were the first group that I ever saw live in 1972, and that had a powerful effect upon me. I think this was the best single they ever made. It's 2 minutes long, and all the best singles were.
Do T-Rex from 72 and Children of the Revolution. What do you think Marc Bolan would have been doing if he'd have still been alive?
Not a great deal, or at any rate, not anything that would possibly interest people. I think, sadly, before the end, he did somewhat go to seed, and it was quite sad, but he certainly did. There's no doubt about that.
I thought he was marvellous.
Yes,
Incredible character. Are you rich now?
Certainly not, no. Do I look rich?
I don't know.
No, I don't. No, I'm not.
You've not sort of...
I'm not on the poverty line, but I'm not massively affluent.
Do you think you've changed at all?
Slightly.
In what way?
Slightly. In the ways that are important, I haven't changed. I don't know. I have some degree of money. That changes people, let's be honest, it does, and it has changed me a bit.
Has it given you more freedom or less?
Much more freedom. Obviously, when you don't have money, you don't have virtually anything. So, yes, it's given me a great deal of freedom and confidence, which I never had before.
Really?
I mean, I think it's very sad to say that money is one of the main factors in gaining confidence.
In what way weren't you confident?
Well, because I was quite poor and I couldn't actually go anywhere, and that does affect you after a decade or so.
Were you ever shy?
Oh, dramatically, yes.
I still think you are a little bit.
I'm terribly, yeah. I mean, when journalists meet me, they think I'm really quite aggressive. They have this picture beforehand that I'm very aggressive, which, of course, I am not.
In what sort of situations do you get shy?
In most situations, really. In the situations where I'm not completely in control, where it's up to somebody else to lead the way. Oh, that sounds quite... No, you know what I mean, Janice.
Do I?
Of course you do.
James, now they're a band that have supported you.
Yes, and will do, yes, on the forthcoming Smiths tour. I love them, they're excellent, they're wonderful.
Why do you like them?
Oh, they have this completely unique air, this unique quality. I don't know what it is. To me, they sound as though what they're doing, they have great control and freedom, and they do it with great expertise, I think.
And this is What's the World?
What will you sell if the glass is in suit? Heart and soul, it won't wear out, that's not enough. I want what's inside. Fish filling knife and curve right through my looking for some words to call my own. Not worn out phrases and hand me down. They'll not mean where I stand. But on its back in a calm deep and going under. You can feel them strip me down to the rust inside. This is the way. Back to started for bits and pieces. Others have won, all held together by management. Too much blue and the stars turn blue, turn blue, turn blue, turn blue, turn blue. Going under, you can feel that pull me down to the holding.
James and What's the World? Morrissey is here. Have you ever, because you're shy or shy over certain things, feel as though you've not done certain things because you haven't had the nerve to do them?
Yes, Janice, I have. Do we have to talk about them?
Yes.
Or can we talk about something else? Yes, there's lots of things I haven't done. Yes, lots of things. For instance, I haven't climbed a Blackpool Tower. I was too shy at the time.
Oh, don't be daft.
No, there's lots of things. There's lots of things.
Do you think you'll ever sort of overcome the shyness and get back to doing them or not?
I doubt it.
I'm dying to know what they are.
Yeah, so am I. No, I doubt it. I doubt it. You know, you have your personality and it's there, and only something very dramatic will change it, I think.
It wouldn't be you if that wasn't there.
No, it wouldn't, which is one good way of looking at it.
That makes sense. So the Smithy boys are up to what?
Everything. Obviously, as you know, we're about to start a lengthy tour, which is sold out, which is wonderful. It ends at the Royal Albert Hall, which is nice. and we've got the LP, and we've got another single coming out at the end of the month. So we're very, very busy. It's a very dramatic, hectic time for us.
And you've worked on the next album?
We're beginning to. We're beginning to. We're not that quick.
I hear you are.
Well, it's plotting. It's plotting.
It's in the plotting stages, but you've got some sort of ideas.
Yes, in the plotting stages.
Anything else you'd like to say before you go?
Many things. Yes, I'd like to say hello to lots of people, but I won't. I'll restrain that point.
They'll know who they are.
No. Yes. Yes, they will.
And will you be moving back to London, do you think?
Well, it'll shame everybody in Manchester, yes, but I have to. I have to indeed.
Could
Shameful.
Morrissey be seen in Marks and Spencer's Ken High Street again?
I'm afraid it's back. Yes, it is. Back to old Marks and Spencer's. I can't keep away from it.
Final track, New York Dolls and Frankenstein. I know you're a great fan of the New York Dolls.
Yes, indeed. Mm.
When did it start?
When did it start? It started in 1973. Sounds like a carbuncle. It started in 1973, and it's still there, I'm afraid. But I wish it'd go away. It's very annoying.
Morrissey, once again, it's been a great pleasure.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Janice.
Say hello to the rest of the lads.
I certainly will.
See you soon.
Thanks to you.